Welcome to our video on the evolution of diplomacy. We will trace the fascinating historical metamorphosis of global statecraft, from classical traditions to our modern globalized era.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's lecture on evolution of diplomacy, from classical traditions to the modern globalized era. Diplomacy is one of the oldest instruments through which states maintain peaceful relations, negotiate conflicts, promote trade, and protect national interests. Although wars often receive more attention in history, diplomacy has always been the preferred method of resolving disputes before violence occurs. Today's lecture will trace the historical development of diplomacy, from ancient civilizations to the modern digital age. We will see how diplomacy evolved from sending temporary messengers to establishing permanent embassies, creating international organizations, and now using social media and digital technologies. By the end of this lecture, you will understand how diplomacy originated, how different civilizations contributed to diplomatic practices, why modern diplomacy is more transparent and multilateral, how digital diplomacy is transforming international relations today. Let's begin our historical journey. This slide presents the 6 major stages in the evolution of diplomacy. The first stage is ancient diplomacy, where rulers exchanged temporary envoys for peace negotiations, alliances, and trade. The second stage is the medieval period, when religion became a dominant influence. The Catholic Church and the Pope often acted as mediators between kingdoms. The third stage is the Renaissance, particularly in Italy, where permanent embassies first appeared. The fourth stage is classical diplomacy, dominated by European powers, secrecy, and bilateral negotiations. The fifth stage is the modern era, beginning after World War I and especially after World War II, where international organizations like the United Nations promoted multilateral diplomacy. Finally, we reach the digital era, where diplomacy extends beyond governments to include digital communication, public diplomacy, and social media engagement. Each stage reflects changing political structures, technological developments, and global challenges. Ancient diplomacy was simple, but remarkably sophisticated for its time. Unlike today, countries did not maintain permanent embassies. Instead, rulers appointed trusted emissaries whenever negotiations became necessary. These envoys carried royal messages, negotiated peace treaties, arranged marriages between royal families, and discussed trade agreements. One of the earliest diplomatic achievements mentioned here is the Treaty of Kadesh, signed around 1259 BCE between Egypt and the Hittite Empire. This treaty is historically significant because it demonstrated that even powerful empires recognized negotiation as preferable to continuous warfare. The existence of such treaties proves that diplomacy is not a modern invention, but has roots extending back thousands of years. India possesses one of the world's richest diplomatic traditions. The Mahabharata illustrates diplomacy through Lord Krishna's peace mission to the Kauravas before the Kurukshetra War. Krishna attempted negotiation repeatedly before recommending war, showing that conflict should always be the last option. Another major contribution comes from Kautilya's Arthashastra. Kautilya proposed 4 diplomatic strategies, known as the upayas: Sama, persuasion; Dana, rewards or incentives; Danda, punishment or force; Beta, division or strategic manipulation. He also introduced the famous mandala theory, suggesting that neighboring states are usually competitors, while the neighbors of those neighbors often become natural allies. Many scholars believe that India's contemporary foreign policy still reflects several principles introduced by Kautilya over 2,000 years ago. Ancient Greece contributed several important diplomatic innovations. Since Greece consisted of independent city-states like Athens, Sparta, and Thebes, diplomacy became essential for maintaining peace and cooperation. The Greeks introduced the concept of diplomatic immunity, protecting envoys from harm while performing official duties. Another innovation was arbitration, where neutral parties settled disputes instead of military conflict. One remarkable practice was the Olympic truce. During the Olympic Games, all wars temporarily stopped so that athletes and visitors could travel safely. This demonstrated that diplomacy could create temporary peace even among hostile states. The Romans transformed diplomacy into a structured legal institution. Instead of relying solely on personal messengers, they established administrative systems with clear diplomatic procedures. Roman diplomacy emphasized written treaties, legal obligations, formal diplomatic protocols, organized bureaucracies. Many concepts found in modern international law originate from Roman legal traditions. The Roman contribution reminds us that successful diplomacy depends not only on negotiation, but also on clearly defined legal frameworks. During the medieval period, religion became deeply connected with diplomacy. The Catholic Church frequently mediated disputes among European monarchs. Royal marriages also became diplomatic tools. Instead of fighting wars, kingdoms often strengthened alliances by arranging marriages between royal families. Another important feature was the coordination required during the Crusades. Large-scale military campaigns demanded extensive diplomatic communication among different kingdoms. Thus, medieval diplomacy combined religion, politics, and dynastic interests. The Renaissance marked one of the greatest turning points in diplomatic history. Italian city-states such as Venice, Florence, and Milan introduced permanent resident ambassadors. Previously, diplomats returned home after completing missions. Now, ambassadors permanently lived in foreign capitals. This allowed continuous communication, better political reporting, collection of intelligence, faster negotiations. Modern embassies around the world are direct descendants of this Renaissance innovation.
Next, we enter Part 2, the Classical Era, defined by a focus on state-to-state secrecy and the maintenance of a delicate European balance of power.
Classical diplomacy was largely Eurocentric. Major European powers dominated global diplomacy. Most negotiations occurred bilaterally between two states. There were no permanent international organizations like today's United Nations. As a result, global issues were addressed individually rather than collectively. This system worked for Europe, but largely excluded Asia, Africa, and Latin America from important international decisions.
This classical arena was dominated by a Eurocentric system and bilateral dialogue, where major powers segmented global issues into direct, two-party agreements.
The Congress of Vienna followed the defeat of Napoleon. European leaders met to redesign the political map of Europe and prevent future conflicts. This conference institutionalized conference diplomacy, where major disputes were resolved through meetings instead of wars. The Congress also established the principle of maintaining a balance of power, ensuring that no single country became overwhelmingly dominant. Remarkably, this diplomatic framework helped preserve relative peace in Europe for nearly a century. Although classical diplomacy achieved stability, excessive secrecy eventually became problematic. Secret military alliances contributed significantly to the outbreak of World War I. As democratic governments expanded, citizens demanded greater transparency in foreign policy. At the same time, newspapers and radio enabled the public to learn about diplomatic negotiations. Gradually, diplomacy shifted from secret negotiations toward greater public accountability. Modern diplomacy differs greatly from classical diplomacy. After World War I, U.S. President Woodrow Wilson advocated open covenants, arguing that treaties should be transparent. Modern diplomacy emphasizes transparency, multilateral cooperation, digital communication. Governments now communicate through international organizations, online meetings, websites, and social media platforms. Technology has dramatically increased the speed and reach of diplomacy.
Modern diplomacy embraces significant innovations. These include open covenants championed by President Woodrow Wilson, the rise of multilateral assemblies, and the widespread use of digital platforms to project national influence directly to the public.
Institutional diplomacy revolves around permanent international organizations. The League of Nations, established in 1920, represented the first major attempt at collective security. However, it failed because important powers remained outside the organization and enforcement mechanisms were weak. Following World War II, the United Nations replaced the League. Today, the UN plays a central role in peacekeeping, human rights, development, humanitarian assistance, and international dispute resolution. This table compares classical and modern diplomacy. Classical diplomacy was secret, bilateral, elite-driven, focused mainly on security, health, trade. Modern diplomacy is transparent, multilateral, inclusive, concerned with climate change, cybersecurity, health, trade, and sustainable development. Communication has also evolved from slow diplomatic correspondence to instantaneous digital networks. This slide presents India's Vaccine Maitri initiative as an example of modern diplomacy. During the COVID-19 pandemic, India supplied vaccines to over 100 countries. This initiative demonstrated that diplomacy today extends beyond military and political negotiations. Humanitarian assistance can also strengthen international partnerships. Vaccine Maitri enhanced India's global reputation and showcased the importance of soft power in contemporary foreign policy. As diplomacy evolves, new challenges continue to emerge. Today's diplomats must deal not only with states, but also with multinational corporations, terrorist organizations, cybercriminals, artificial intelligence, and autonomous technologies. Future diplomacy will increasingly combine traditional negotiation skills with expertise in technology, cybersecurity, environmental governance, and digital communication. Students of international relations must therefore understand both historical traditions and modern innovations. To conclude, diplomacy has undergone a remarkable transformation. It began with temporary messengers in ancient civilizations and has evolved into highly institutionalized, technology-driven global engagement. Despite these changes, one principle remains constant: dialogue is always more effective than conflict. Understanding diplomacy's evolution enables us to better appreciate international cooperation and peaceful conflict resolution in today's interconnected world. Thank you for your attention. Thank you for watching this lecture on the evolution of diplomacy. If you found this video helpful, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to press the notification bell so you never miss our upcoming lectures on international relations, diplomacy, and political science. Thank you, and see you in the next class.